Hi everyone, welcome to Upcycle Sunday. Every Sunday we'll be coming online to share some tips and tricks on how you can upcycle and repurpose old garments, fabrics, anything lying around. I will be moving away from fashion next week. I think it's time for me to talk about some things in the house that you can upcycle. You don't need a sewing machine, but for today, I'm in the studio, and today we're going to be focusing on colored thread. So here you can see I bought this neon orange thread. So I thought today's topic will be using neon thread to join all your fabric together and actually making the neon colored thread a feature. So it's almost like, I guess almost like patchwork, but you're using your stitch line to make it all. So here I did this. This is super easy to make, even though it looks like there's a lot of work putting in here. I've got a way to easily sew this, so you don't need to spend hours and hours patchworking this all together. I chose orange just because I thought it's a color that will go back with a lot of my favorite colors. For the blue, it's quite contrasting. And then for the pink, I've got this pink tie-dye, which has already been started its upcycle journey, having the tie-dye. But actually, this wasn't even tie-dye. This is the drop cloth from when I tie-dye. So that's another trick. When you're tie-dyeing, put a piece of cloth underneath your tie-dye, station, and all the dye that drips off onto the ground, catch it into a drop cloth, and then I don't know how you could get more thrifty than that. You're pretty much catching the dye that's getting left over. So if you have an overlocker, all this stitch work is probably best to do with an overlocker. You can do it with a straight sewer, but you have to go over it many times. At least with an overlocker, you've already got this thick seam. And yeah, I'm gonna show you a couple of pieces. So hopefully you can see it all. My studio's a real mess. I'm sorry about that. And so how I did all of the patchwork, the squares, is actually a really easy trick. I'm going to show you. So we'll start off with blue, I think first. We'll start off with blue. So we've got, so it's easy for me because when I cut out garments, I have a lot of these offcuts, which when you have a lot of the same size cloth, that becomes a bit easier to join it all together because you're just repeating the same stitch line again and again. So these are all offcuts. Sure, you could get a piece of fabric or pick up a couple of scrap fabrics and then just cut them to the same size, or just use different sizes would be great. What I'm going to start off first with is grabbing 2 of the strips, and we're going to keep it long. I'm not going to bore you because I know that these lives can get boring. So I'm going to be really quick and just show you how to do one part of it. So I've got industrial overlocker, so you'll see how quick it goes. So pop the 2 strips together. Now remember, if there's a right and wrong side to the fabric, the whole stitch embellishment technique is for the outside. We want people to see it, right? So make sure the good side of the fabric is actually where your seam is going to be visible. It's pretty much the opposite. How if you're a traditional sewer, you always make sure that the good side of the fabric's on the other side. If you want to make your garment reversible, you can do that. It's going to be like this, seams, and then you pickle. But yeah, for now, I'm going to say, if it was me, I would choose the right side. I'm going to sew on the right side of the fabric. So pop it in. Let's sew the first seam. Overlock, you got to be careful. It's going to cut. It cuts your fabric. This is actually also why overlocking all different types of scrap together is super easy, because you've got a cutter there that can just trim it off. So we've got here. I'm going to do the first strip. Oh my god. I need to get my scissors. 1 second. So you can always, threads that you can choose, there were other neon colors. You could go neon yellow, you could go black. Hi! So you can choose all different types. So I've got neon orange. And so we're gonna do the strip. I'm gonna show you how to do this cube, like checkered feature. So instead of sewing all the cubes together, you're gonna sew the strips together. I'll do one more just so I can get the full effect. I haven't been able to get anyone to come on just yet. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to pop them into the chat. And let's go. One more strip. So you can tell sewing strips together is super quick. And knitwear is always fun to overlock together. You can overlock a woven fabric as well. Doesn't have to be knit, but knitting different textures of knitwear together is, stitching, overlocking different textures on knitwear is really fun as well. So now we've got 3 strips together, and now we're going to add stitch lines going the opposite direction, and you can make them as wide as you want. So what I do is I get the fabric, I turn it in half wherever I'm going to stitch, and you're pretty much creating a false join because the fabric's already joined here. But we put this in the machine. I'll do a couple. You can make them as wide as you like. I just did this by accident the other day. I love working with my hands because that's where all the... okay, so here, just going the other direction, we start to create the grid. And it's super easy. And then you can just kind of create this all over grid, which is a fun... You're then adding a sense of pattern through the fabric, through all the joinery and the stitch, which is really cool on full scale. Now, I've got some other examples to show you. So when you're adding all these different fabrics together, you can play around with the texture of the fabric. You can also play around with print. So I've got some checkered print here. So I was just gonna, I don't know what this will be like, so I'll do it with you. But in terms of having a checkered print and then checkered sewing on top creates all these, I don't know, fun patterns that are almost multi-dimensional. Let's see. Oh my god, I just sewed the wrong side. So I just did what we're not supposed to do. So this one, I wanted the stitch to go on the outside, and now I've just sewn on the inside. Ugh. Alright, let's go again. Let's have a look. Prade Goda saying add me. What are you sewing? What are you making? I'd love to find out more. So I'm going to stitch this. Oh god, I love having an industrial overlocker. Alright, so we've got this stitch line on the outside of the checks. And now I'm going to be super quick and just go across the checks now in the opposite direction. Oh, my nose is so itchy. I think with the overlocker, when it cuts all the like little pieces of fibers so quick up in my face. Right. So let's go that. And then I'm just actually choosing to stitch almost through the squares. Or maybe stitch. Let's try both. You can always test out. What I suggest is before you do your main garment, always do little like swatches of. And you can see here, doesn't look like much, but on a really big, large scale of this kind of garment will be really cool. That's all. You can always make different patches in different colors and then join them all together again. You can also do one side, you can do one direction stitch color and then swap up your machine and change up the other stitch color. So that is joining, you're joining print together with a pattern stitch. You should, and just be, don't make it too complicated. Just choose shapes or lines, high repetition, and overall it'll be really effective. So the other thing before we clock off today, we're going to finish with is, so edging clothing can also be difficult as well, especially if you don't have a cover stitch machine, which most of us don't. I mean, I actually do production and I don't even have a cover stitch machine. So you can choose a neon thread to do or your edge stitching. So it might be the cuff of your t-shirt or your hem, and you can pop. I'm just going to show you with this tie-dye. So I haven't adjusted the tension for this. There's something wrong with this tension. It's way too tight. Sorry. Sometimes you'll find the neon threads will behave badly in overlockers because they're just not the best quality how they've gotten. Oh, it's so hard for you to see. Let's get close. See it? It's kind of cool. Make the edge a feature. You can do rolled hem. I don't know how to change it on this overlocker. I used to do it with my domestic overlocker. You could do a rolled hem with neon thread, and then you get that, it's called a lettuce edge, you know, that kind of when the knitwear expands as you sew it, and then it kind of gives this frill. That's really nice. So I thought, yeah, hopefully that this little trick of upgrading to neon threads and using your neon threads as a feature in your print, in your sewing joinery, you can get all these fun shapes that you created with the sewing machine. For those who are just joining now, I'll upload this video. But just remember, always collect all your scraps when you're upcycling. And you never know, because even though two fabrics don't match well together, the way you join them together, it could actually work. And here's one with all the different print, and then sewing, you're pretty much sewing a print on top of a print. And you can just play with, if you've got stripes, this would be really cool as well. You could put stripes in different directions so they intersect. You can do polka dots, you could do large and small polka dots, so you kind of create these optical illusions through placement of print. Cool. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this Upcycle Sunday, and we'll be back here next week. Next week I'm focusing on things in the house. So I know that not everyone has a sewing machine, and not everyone has access to a sewing machine since most of us are in lockdown. So we're going to be focusing next week on making some stuff you can make inside your house. Really easy. I'm going to be using all the ingredients found inside your pantry or your bathroom, or just random things like that. So you can actually start to work on projects at home. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to drop me a DM and let me know if there's anything that you want to learn about upcycling. I'm Emma from Hue. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.